Welcome to Chargers Talk 4630. I'm Stacey Mallory alongside my co-host and friend, Garrett Elsasser. Before we jump into today's segment, I want to thank all of you that joined us here on YouTube and to all the listeners who tuned in, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, and wherever you go to get this podcast. Lending your ear and your support means a lot to us. And if I can have one request, and that is for you to support this podcast by clicking on the subscribe button. This way, you'll never miss a segment when we go on live. Before I turn it over to Garrett, I want to share with the viewers and listeners a quick story. I kind of wish that YouTube would have used the word follow instead of subscribe. And here's why I say that. I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and I was, of course, always promoting the podcast. And I told him, have you ever been on the podcast? It's a Chargers podcast. And he said, nah, I haven't, but I'm going to go on it. I said, well, why are you hesitant? You're not really that much into football or this and that, or just come on and support me. And he said, man, you have no idea how many subscriptions I got to this, to this, and this, and that. And I said, well, all you have to do is just join. You don't have to do it. He said, no, well, how much does it cost? And I said, no, it don't cost anything. He said, yeah, but it says subscribe. If you're one of those people that think that equate subscribe with money, no, it don't cost you anything. And that's why I said I wish that YouTube would have used the word follow instead of subscribe. Because when you hit subscribe on the YouTube page, you're just following us so that you can get all the notifications for when we go on live or when we release any content. But there are some people that think that when you press it, it's going to take you to a section where it says put in your credit card or whatever, and you have to pay $5.99. That's just not the case. So I wanted to make sure we got that out the way, that it is free. It costs you absolutely nothing to join. So, Garrett, how you been, man?
I'm doing well, Stacey. That's an interesting point to bring up because I know back in my day when I first started hopping on these, they were like, hit that subscribe button. I'm not subscribing to this. Right. I pay enough for Netflix, Amazon.
Yes.
So that's a very, very valid point because it costs you nothing to follow this page. And we bringing you content every week, ladies and gentlemen. So outside of work, I'm just ready to knock out today's segment. Okay. And we're going to be discussing this draft class. Naturally. And did it make the team better? What are our thoughts on the undrafted free agents that are coming out?
Okay.
And the breaking news that DJ Chark got signed by the Chargers. I know we're pretty excited about that. But how good does this make the wide receiver room? Also, MVP. You know, Justin Herbert MVP. He started off in the talks and kind of fizzled out as Brandon Staley went away. But could this be the year Justin Herbert pulls it off? Going to be talking about that. And then last but not least, with an overcrowded wide receiver room, who could be the odd man out? I don't think we're keeping 7 wide receivers, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So starting at the top, did this draft make the team better? I mean, I think you want to say yes to that question every time, I think through and through. But as we've discussed in previous episodes, I think that 100% it did, but not in the sense that like we had to reach to get needs. We filled them in with value picks when we got them. On the consensus board, we picked people that were undervalued at our position, and they should have gone, a couple of rounds before, whether it was 10, 20 picks before.
Right.
And when you can do something like that in the draft, that's solid.
I agree with you, man. This sounds like a really good segment. And did this draft class make the team better? I would say, although we have to play the waiting game to see. But from what I can see right now with what Harbaugh and Ortiz is trying to do, I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes, our defense was horrible. It had been under the 3 years that Brandon Staley been there. We couldn't stop the run. We couldn't run the ball. The defense gave up 144 yards a game on the ground. So with the sneaky pieces that this general manager brought in, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, Will Disley and Hayden Hurst, Bradley Bozeman, Denzel Perriman, Troy Dye and Christian Fulton, Poona Ford. When I look at these guys that come in, all of these guys play with a chip on their shoulder. They play with an edge, and they're tough and physical guys. And that's something that the Chargers never was under Brandon Staley. And that led to us having a horrible defense and a horrible offense, not being able to run the ball. With the pieces they're bringing in, I think they will be a lot better with stopping the run. I think we'll be much more efficient in running the ball. So do I think this draft class makes the team better with regards to what they want to do and impose their will on teams and be able to sustain drives by running the ball, and late in the season, December, being able to close games out with the run game, I believe wholeheartedly that this team is going to be better.
Well said, Stacey. I think that there's one note to make on this too. I don't know if I made a tweet about this, or a post, I guess, now on X. I don't think I've ever seen so much unanimous excitement and agreement with the Joe Alt pick after the first night. The first night happened and we were a fan base divided. And then after the rest of the draft happened, everyone's like, this isn't so bad, you know? Yeah. So I think once we saw the broad scope, instead of just looking through a straw, we saw the big picture. And now we're like, holy crap, we're kind of filling in these voids now. This team can actually compete this year.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And I never doubted that Alt was the best tackle. In my mind, I think a lot of people did think the same thing, that, hey, he's the left tackle. We have an all-pro left tackle already. And I think that's what the thinking was. But after having time to digest it all and looking at this guy's huge, man. This guy's a mountain of a man. And to know that he was a tight end a couple of years ago and was able to make a transition over to a tackle, there's no reason why he can't make a transition over to right tackle and be just as efficient as he was from the left tackle spot.
And they know what they're doing. They've already talked to him about this. If he's willing to do, they know he's willing. They know that it's going to be seamless, or at least they hope. So hopefully this is what happens. I don't think you take that big of a risk on a top 5 pick. I think they're pretty certain it's going to work out. Well, with that said, what are your thoughts on the undrafted free agent class? I know you got some people you want to talk about. I know I got some people I want to talk about. Let's get after it.
Okay. Well, we're going to start off with I did some research on Jalen Phillips, a safety out of Clemson. And I think that Phillips, he was a beast on special teams with nearly like 650 snaps in 5 seasons at Clemson. He got the size that the NFL is looking for in a safety at 6'1", 204 pounds. He's a very good tackler. The only negative thing was he ran a 4.62 in the 40-yard dash, and it showed on film where he lacked the speed to hang in there with vertical routes. But because of that, I feel he's more of a traditional box safety where he could cover tight ends and shallow the zones. Jesse Minter says he likes him a lot. And
not first pick, but in no particular order, the first guy that I have on my undrafted free agent list, Zach Hines, tight end out of South Dakota State. This man is a unit, 6'6", 264. He's already got an NFL frame ready to go, and he loves doing the dirty work. He loves run blocking. And you know what this Greg Roman scheme does? You can't have enough guys on the edge setting that for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards to break those big runs. He's also a reliable target. He plays mainly between the hash because with his bigger frame, he's not too light on his feet, but he's physical after the catch when he does catch it. I think the only downside to him, which is what made him an undrafted free agent, was he just kind of he wasn't twitchy enough. So he was if somebody wanted to focus on his coverage and locking him down, it was very easy to do because you couldn't really break away from that coverage. He reminds me a lot of Cole Kmet.
Okay.
So
yeah, I like that. I have to check him out for sure. My second one I got is Michael Mason. He's a defensive lineman out of Coastal Carolina, kind of like 270 pounds. The Chargers really don't have much depth behind Morgan Fox, and Michael Mason very well could end up being his backup. And by next year, probably might replace Morgan Fox, who played the 5 technique. Michael also brings run-stopping ability that could help him push for a roster spot. I think he makes this team. I think this may be the last year that Morgan Fox is there. As you know, with Ortiz, the way they operate with that Baltimore-type philosophy, I believe that they always been good at getting rid of a guy 1 year before they think the decline starts so they can get something for him. All about building up those compensatory picks. And so I think Mason probably can make the team and replace Morgan Fox next season.
I like it. You can never have too many guys in the trenches, especially on that defensive side. So for me, I have Akeem Dent, safety out of Florida State. So I see your Clemson defensive back, and I raise you my Florida State defensive back. So Dent actually played slot corner. They moved him to safety, so he's still kind of learning that role, which is probably why he slid a little bit, wasn't able to put a lot of safety film together. But I think if he makes his team, much like Austin Eckler, he will make it as a special teamer. This man is super fast. He runs a 4.4 40. He's a sure tackler. He's diverse. He plays super physical. and he's great against the run. So if he can come in on special packages, if we need him on those, for surefire rundowns, but I think he does make his mark on special teams. If he were to make the team, that's where it's going to happen first.
I can't have many corners, man. The Chargers last year suffered mightily. You brought in Jackson, and we know how that all worked out. And now Michael Davis is gone. Asante Samuel played there a couple of times, and he kind of struggled in the last couple of years at the corner spot. So you can't have enough corners. Speaking of corners, there's a guy from Mississippi that I like that I think that have a good chance of making this team as well. His name is Amari Walton. He's primarily an outside corner. He had 335 special team snaps under his belt, which is a plus if you try to make a squad that don't have many, to that of Dean Leonard. But let's see what happened. You never know, but you can't have enough cornerbacks on this team, especially in a division where they like to throw the ball around with that other team in Las Vegas and the Kansas City Chiefs.
I 100% agree with you there, Stacey. I think that if we hit on an undrafted free agent corner as well as the two corners that we took in the draft, Still and Hart, I mean, Ortiz is going to he's going to have a statue in front of SoFi already.
Yes, 100%.
My next guy, and this is a namesake. He's a bulldozer, but his name alone will make people raise their eyebrows and wonder if I said it wrong. But Willis Patrick, offensive guard out of TCU, 6'4", 355, behemoth. This man bulldozes people. And I've heard Harbaugh guy, I've heard, Greg Roman guy, Trench's guy. He is the epitome of this. He was at Angelo State, so D2 school, right? Transferred to Jackson State and played under Deion Sanders. Then ended up at TCU, making a name for himself against those D1 opponents, mauling people. This guy is an A-gap presence. He sits there, and you cannot penetrate. He is a shield. And you've seen that when Herbert got hurt, those blitzes were coming through the A-gap.
Yeah.
If this guy can make the team and we have injuries on our starting O-line, I would be so confident with him going in there, protecting Herbert's front side and right in front of him, that we would be very, very confident going forward. That's my biggest thing. He's a stout anchor in that A-gap protection.
Okay, yeah, listen, man, we struggled mightily on the right side of that line. So I know that Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they're going to do what they can to get that right side fixed. And a huge start it was by having Joe Alt man that side. Now you have two great tackles on either side, so which will help Justin Herbert stay healthy and stay upright. Speaking of offensive tackles, there's an offensive tackle that I want to talk about, and this is a guy, just seeing his physical attributes, I was like, wow, this guy looks like a beast. We know everybody can't make the team. There's I think maybe 25 undrafted guys they signed, and a couple going to end up on the practice squad. And the Chargers have had luck over the years with always having at least one or two undrafted guys make the team and do really well. Let's see if we could continue that. But the offensive tackle I'm speaking of is Tyler McClellan from Campbell. Now, Tyler was very interested in me because he's a mountain of a man at 6'7", 321 pounds, and that alone will get teams' attention in the NFL. Unfortunately, it was reported his athletic testing was poor in just about every area. His technique wasn't good, and you need to be more than just big size to make it in the NFL. We will see if the Chargers coaching staff can sharpen this guy's tools and pull something out of him that hopefully will give him a chance to at least end up on the practice squad. But he's got the prototypical size that teams are looking for in a tackle. And you can't have enough offensive tackles in this league. So I don't know if he's going to make the team, but he definitely has the size that people are looking for. And if he can be coached up, who knows?
Yep, exactly. And I think the real quick, a little tidbit in terms of free agents that you want to talk about. As Charger fans, we saw Antonio Gates do it, undrafted free agent. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, should have been first ballot. That's a podcast for another day. Austin Eckler, Mike Tolbert. And then people in the NFL, you have Arian Foster, Wes Welker, Victor Cruz, Michael Bennett, Adam Vinatieri. These are guys that did not get drafted, and some of these are going to be Hall of Famers. You get James Harrison, Jason Beaton, Tony Romo. It's awesome. And that's the beauty of these undrafted free agent signings. It could be a dream come true for some of these guys.
Right.
As for your tackle, I'm going to counter you with an edge rusher. So maybe these two might meet up in camp. His name is Tremont Morris Brash, which I think that name is probably just so fun to say. So might be why I picked him too. Yeah. Okay, cool. Out of UCF, as you know, he's 6'2", 256. He is a great edge setter against the run. And we're talking about run defense all the time. Setting that edge is so pivotal, and that's something Khalil Mack and Bosa do so very well. That if he can get on this team and be a protege for them and be edge 4, that would be amazing. Because, I mean, Chris Rump, he's been there. I don't know if he's what's going to happen with him. So I think if there's an opening, it's right there at edge 4. I think that's our sweet spot. And he's going to be there in the rookie mini camp starting May 8th. He's got a great first step. High speed when pursuing. He doesn't get lost, and he doesn't get knocked down. He doesn't sacrifice power when engaging, so he doesn't end up on his back. He doesn't get washed out of plays, which I think would be huge for the edge.
I like that breakdown. Yeah. I'm gonna finish with my guy, and if the 5 guys that I wanted to highlight, if I was a gambling man and I had to take a bet on either list that I had, who would definitely make the team? I'm pretty confident that this guy here. It's almost a shoe-in as far as I'm concerned of making this team. And I'm speaking of Carson Bernard, a guard from Michigan. Look, you knew one of Michigan's undrafted players would end up with the Chargers in undrafted. But Carson is a utility guy who started games at every position except center while at Michigan. I think he will likely be competing for a spot on the interior of the Chargers offensive line. He started 3 games at right guard when Zach Zinter broke his leg last year. He's played both tackle positions as well as both guard positions, making him extremely valuable due to his versatility and his skill set as a blocker. I think he makes this roster as you can't have too many linemen.
Absolutely. That might be 3-4 linemen in total between the two of us. So we clearly see that the trenches aren't done yet. And they're always going to be looking for that next level talent, especially if we can get them on an undrafted free agent contract. So that said, speaking of trenches again, I went back to the tight end spot. I still feel that maybe a Stone Smart or someone who's already on this as a tight end spot could be in competition with one of these undrafted free agent guys. So Luke Benson, tight end out of Georgia Tech, started off at Syracuse, 6'4", 233, ran a 4.4. So he's kind of like the finesse version as opposed to the other tight end that I just talked about, Zach Hines. So Luke Benson is quicker. He reminds me of Vernon Davis. If you were to, I'm relating a lot to the Niners just because Jim Harbaugh, when he was there, you have that quicker tight end. A lot of those packages, Greg Roman was obviously there. So when you have that playmaker who can stretch the field, that will expand the offense that much more. He wasn't used a lot at Georgia Tech after he transferred, and he had 1,300 blocking snaps. So I think that if he doesn't go in and become that premier tight end to go catch balls and use his wheels, he might challenge for the fullback tight end hybrid spot. So because he's versatile like that, I think he has a good chance of making the roster as well.
What's next on our board?
Next on our board is that news yesterday. It was kind of late for me anyway. DJ Chark. How good do you think this signing is going to make our wide receiver room? Do you think he's going to make it? Do you think it was going to be good with or without him? Where are you at with that, Stacey?
Well, I actually think it's a good thing by adding the DJ Chark. First, the guy is fast. He have speed. We lacked that last year. So he have the speed. He appeared to have good hands. I remember back in 2019, he had over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. He had that 1 year that he was injured in 2021 with Jacksonville, but for the most part, he's been a productive receiver in this league. He's played with Carolina, Jacksonville, and last year with Detroit Lions. And when you pull up film on him, he pops out off the film. This guy runs routes well. He has pretty good hands from what I can see, and he's a playmaker. And when you add something like this to your team and to your receiver room, how could it not make your team better?
I absolutely agree. I think he had 5 touchdowns last year, which that's commendable. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it's not like he was just shoe off the field kind of guy. 500 yards, and that's with Bryce Young throwing the ball. Nothing against him. That offense was just a little bit in shambles. Still trying to find their groove with the rookie quarterback. And then that 2019 season that you brought up, he had 8 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, and he's still only 27 years old. This is a young guy. If he gets that right chance and he stays healthy, he can make an immediate impact on our team.
Right. And we always talked about teams that Harbaugh has coached that doesn't have those tier 1 receivers. But those tier 2 and tier 3 receivers complement the running game and what they like to do so well. And I think on play actions with McConkey and with DJ Chark, I think we're working with something here.
Yep. And I want to say something. I think that when we had Keenan Allen and Mike, we had such good talent that when they went out, the drop-off was immediately noticeable.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Now, what I think we have here is a group of wide receivers that are ready to get dirty. Not that Keenan Allen and Mike weren't, but they as a group will be fierce and they're going to attack as a unit. I think that if, it's McConkey or it's Quentin Johnson or it's DJ Chark, they're similar. And I think you can mix them up on the line. You can have one player in the slot, one player in the X, one player in the Z. You have your boundary guys, and you can shuffle them up, play the matches, whatever you want to do. Yes. And I think that's going to make this offense very, very diverse, which is a wrinkle that I don't think a lot of teams are going to plan for right off the bat.
I thought we was going to end up getting Boyd, but, with Boyd, when he left the office and went to Tennessee, I had to know it was a money thing. We still don't have a lot of money to just be throwing at players because you still got J.C. Jackson's salary on the books that'll be cleared off next year. But you get DJ Chark on a 1-year deal, and now he's playing for his next contract. That's always
worth up to $5 million. That's easy. Yep.
Yeah. So, I think it makes this team a whole lot better. And competition is always good. And the only downside to it, someone is going to be forced out.
I think it's waivers first, and then if he clears waivers, you can add him to the practice squad.
Right.
Now, I don't see if you are checking your waiver wire and you see Rice on there, and you can just have a chance to bring him in for free and then use the 7th round pick.
Right.
Then I think a team might grab him. Yeah. That said, I hope that it's not just a namesake thing. Maybe they play it smart. Maybe they just keep Rice because he's better, but that's the smart play. You don't want to risk losing one of your receivers that you spent a draft pick on, especially if they're in competition. So I think in terms of the roster spots, I'm going to give you I think we keep with 6. I think we keep 6 wide receivers. And I think we go Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, DJ Chark. The winner between Rice and Cornelius Johnson, and then Darius Davis, because Darius Davis, especially with this new kickoff, he's a premium now.
Absolutely.
So I think Simi Fehoko is definitely one of the odd men out for that one.
Yeah, and it's no slight against Cornelius, and it's have nothing to do with Brendan Rice being Jerry Rice's son. It's just that he was more productive, and you see that on film. So, and that's the reason why I feel like Cornelius. And we knew somebody was going to be out. We knew it. That's the tough part of this business for the NFL. You want to keep everybody, but you can't. And some people lose when you put them there and they don't clear that waiver wire. That can happen. So who do you least want to lose? Is it Brendan Rice or is it Cornelius Johnson? And, I think it's going to come down to that.
And the good thing about this is we get to come in here every week during training camp and talk about who's winning these battles. And I can't wait for that because this wide receiver battle is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now, if we want to switch gears here, let's talk about who's throwing them the ball.
Okay.
Justin Herbert. Do you think that if things go well, not even well, if they go great, do you think Herbert can end up in discussions and or just win the MVP this season?
I do. I really do. There's no doubt about it. You've never heard anyone, no matter what negatives they may say about Justin Herbert, everybody acknowledges that's one of the greatest talents that you see in the NFL in a long time from the quarterback perspective. And to his credit, he's never really had an efficient run game. He's never really had a legitimate offensive line. He pretty much, if it wasn't for Justin Herbert, no one would be watching the Los Angeles Chargers since he had took over and when Phillip Rivers left. He was the reason why I flew out to LA because I wanted to see Justin Herbert. We know he can make all the throws. I think he's an underrated runner when he take off running. But imagine with all the stats, this man every year has just been breaking and setting records. Every year he's been in the league, but it hasn't translated to wins because, in the NFL, it's a team sport. It's not a boxing match where your performance alone will determine whether you have success or not. So we know he can ball, but now, given all of the components that's put in place, I believe a better offensive line that can protect him and keep him upright, having an efficient running game. And make no mistake about it, no shade on Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler was a beast in the red zone. A couple of years ago, 2 years in a row, he had scored 38 touchdowns, 20 and 18 in 2 different seasons. But in terms of him running the ball, getting 100-something yards a game and closing the game out the end, we wasn't getting that. You know what I mean? It was all Justin Herbert getting you in the red zone, and then the guy was scoring. We haven't had an efficient run game since LaDainian Tomlinson. So I think adding those dimensions to Justin Herbert, hell, Lamar Jackson won MVP, and he only threw 27 touchdowns. Yep. You know, and I think Josh Allen had threw like 40 touchdowns. You know, but so can Justin Herbert win the MVP with this kind of offense? 100%.
I agree with you, and I want to bring up something just in the interest of time. But I was thinking about it. I was like, what makes him MVP instead of just being a fan? Like, what, you know, great. We got Greg Roman offense. We got Jim Harbaugh. So I relate again. Jim Harbaugh. Last time he was in the NFL, San Fran, right? And this offense and that team has kind of kept that identity since he left. They run the ball. They have a decent pass game or a great passing game, and they play good defense. Now, here's Brock Purdy's stats from last year. He had 444 attempts for 4,280 yards. Justin Herbert, while missing 4 games with injury, had 456 attempts. So 3 games less than Purdy had more attempts and only 3,134 yards. My point here is that Brock Purdy, because everyone's so worried about throwing the ball, not as much, and you know Justin Herbert's a Lamborghini. Brock Purdy was in the MVP discussion right up until Lamar Jackson won it, based on running the ball and having a balanced offense. He threw for 4,280 yards and had a 69.4% completion percentage at 9.6 yards per attempt. It's almost a first down every time you throw the ball.
Yes.
So that is when you play that game of football, the defense they're going to be on their heels the whole game. It allows you to run the ball efficiently to set up the pass. Yes. You don't need Herbert, and they've said that. You don't want Herbert to be superhero. Bring those attempts down. He should not be at 456 attempts
100%
through week 14. That is insane. So we get to dial that back. He gets to be cool, calm, and collected, which he always is anyway, but now he's even more so. And when he's in his zone and the run game's going and we're firing on all cylinders, it's going to be tough to stop. You can't. What's the recipe to beat that? There isn't one.
The regime before him didn't have a plan for Justin Herbert.
No,
they just looked at him and saw that he could be Superman with the S on his chest and said, Justin is going to take us to the promised land. This regime has a plan for Justin Herbert. They're telling them this is a team sport with a running game and that play action and with the schemes that they have. I really believe that he has a good shot at being MVP, and that's hoping that everything fall in place like we expect it to.
Yeah. And that said, with the team game, I think that if he's winning MVP, there's another league award that's getting put out, whether it's a defensive player of the year that's putting our offense in good spots to succeed, or a coach of the year, or a comeback player of the year. Someone else somewhere on this team in the staff is going to have a great year as well. And that's what's going to make this come together and be a great season for all of us to watch.
And that's why Harbaugh comes in great, because Harbaugh wins everywhere he goes. And
exactly,
you can't be in the MVP conversation. I don't care what kind of statistical year you're having if you're not winning games.
No.
So that's the key as well. If Justin Herbert is winning 75, 80% of those games, he will be in that MVP conversation. Because when I look at Lamar Jackson, a fantastic talent, Lamar Jackson didn't have better numbers than Purdy. He didn't have better numbers than Josh Allen, but because of the season they were having, that's why he was in the conversation. But when you break it down, you're like, wow, Dak Prescott had better numbers than Lamar Jackson. So a lot of times it's all about team success.
Yep.
If you're going to be in that conversation.
Yeah, Stacey, you're absolutely right. I think that as we're talking about just, time control, clock management, things like that, Kansas City, the team that won the Super Bowl, as we all know, 15th in the league in points per game, 2 spots away from being in the lower half of the league.
Right.
They ran the ball. They played good defense.
That's right.
And they had Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is a Lamborghini too. Everyone wants Patrick Mahomes on their team.
Yes.
He wasn't gunning the ball. Guess what they did? No. They won a Super Bowl. Do you think they care how pretty it looked?
No, not at all.
Nope. Yeah, and on the contrary, the Niners, who I love to compare with, and I know we don't have a CMC. I'm aware of that. I know Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins and Kimani Vidal are not CMC, but the Niners are top 3 in scoring. So the 2 Super Bowl teams, you can get there in different ways, but they both control the game. They run the ball, play good defense, and then the passing game opens up.
I had a friend of mine that was asking me, why am I so confident that Harbaugh can continue what he's done everywhere he's been with the Chargers? And when you look at what he's been saying, I can't say it enough. The words that he's been using since the very first day he arrived: tough, physicality, mean, with an attitude. And, when you see that, look at the 4 teams, right? When it was left to 4 teams fighting to get to the Super Bowl, it was the Baltimore Ravens, it was the San Francisco 49ers, it was the Detroit Lions, it was the Kansas City Chiefs. What do they all have in common? Those teams were physical.
Yes.
Those teams were physical. I mean, now Kansas City, you can say, well, it didn't look like San Fran. It didn't look like Baltimore, but they had the number 2 defense the entire year in the NFL.
No one talked about it.
No one talked about it. They were under the radar. And that's what carried Patrick Mahomes when they struggled with having most drop passes in the season, that defense. And then when the playoffs come, Mahomes turns into Superman.
He does. And then Kelsey reappears and game over.
But the point is, that style still wins today. I don't care if we're in a passing league. I believe in Harbaugh's philosophy that we got to win the trenches, we got to stop the run, and we have to run the ball. If you can't do those components, you can't win. I don't care who you have at quarterback.
I have a real quick thing that I just looked up. You said Harbaugh's, philosophy and all that thing, and I don't know if you're familiar, if you saw the tidbit. I think it was the Pat McAfee show. They had it on, and they had Jim Harbaugh's rules to live by. And I think there's 6 of them. So the first one is seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added unto you. And number 2, this is our favorite: attack each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. This is shared with the family, by the way. Jim Harbaugh, his dad, they all use this thing and they live by it. Number 3, who could possibly have it better than you? Number 4, better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today. Love that one.
Yes. And
then the last one, he tops it off with heroes have no days off. Like, I'm like ready to run through a wall right now, just reading that. Like,
I mean, watching the draft with this guy, man, watching him, you see when he starts singing the fight song, he's singing in
I got goosebumps right now. It's crazy.
Yes. And they ended it with Go Blue in the AFC West,
And they all clapped. He could take over a room. He can take over a room.
And then after one of the selections that they chose, he got up and Ortiz come to give him a hug. He went to punch him. He had everybody. He had the owner running, ducking, trying to hide their bodies. He's running around punching people. I would love to meet this guy and be around this guy, man. His enthusiasm and his energy, man, is unmatched. I'm going to say my final few words, and I'm going to let you take us home.
Okay.
We want to thank you so much for joining us today. And if you like the content here and you want to support our community, please don't forget to follow us by clicking on the subscribe button. That means follow us, not subscribe and pay. Just follow us by pressing the subscribe button. And also share this podcast with someone who may not have tuned into us yet. And as always, we appreciate your support. We appreciate everything that you've done by coming in and being an ear for us and supporting us and commenting in the chat room. And we just can't thank you enough. Garrett, you want to take us home?
I just want to say to everybody listening, watching, whatever, thank you so much. I did not think in my life that I would have an opportunity to do something like this, but I got to do it. I'm doing it, and I'm on a deployment. Like, it is so crazy what life has to throw at you. And it's funny that we read these philosophies for Jim Harbaugh and all that stuff, because I do feel like every day I wake up and I feel like I have something tangible outside of, I got the military going for me and I have my family and I have my friends, but this is a new life to me. And I'm not getting personal, but there was a lot of times where it was just things were in question. What am I going to do next? This is just so much fun. And Stacey, I can't thank you enough. Listeners, viewers, can't thank y'all enough. Just please keep tuning in. Subscribe. You don't have to pay a dime. That's right. And I just appreciate it. And I can't wait to give you, Stacey and I, give you this kind of content going forward because we are stoked to be here.
Thank you. Again, thank you for what you do for this country. And thank you for being my co-host. I think we're better together than apart. Always. And again, as always, vote gang and don't bang. I love that line, and I'm bringing that back. Vote gang or don't bang.
And don't bang.
You remember who said that? Melvin Ingram started.
Melvin Ingram. Yep. And they also did ASAP.
Yes.
Any squad. Yeah.
Any squad, any place. That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in wherever you're listening at. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bolt up.
Talk to you later, Garrett.